Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs, bienvenue dans une nouvelle session de programmation récréationnelle avec Monsieur Sezin. Ce n'est pas moi et je ne parle pas français, so we're switching to English. Hello, everyone. Just practicing my French for no particular reason. Of course, as the creator of the first French programming language, which is totally a real thing and not just a little gimmick I made in 5 minutes. All right. Right before the stream and actually during the initial ad break, I was trying to fix something in Lisp, and I kind of don't want to leave it halfway through because I feel like I'm really close to being done. But essentially, my new build system that I made on Monday in Lisp is when it runs a command and that command fails, I have no way of knowing how it failed. So I'm trying to make it do that, and I'm not entirely understanding what the issue is with what's going on here. Essentially, let me see if I'm... I have this run program function that runs the program using the input that it's given, ignores if there's an error, and produces output, because these are things that you can configure. There's the cursor. Spoiling what I want to work on today, by the way, because this is not it. Puts that in a variable called result. Then I'm trying to make this work, so I created another let declaration where I put another variable called exit code, where I take the value number 2 out of result, which result is, value 2 is like 0 is output, 1 is error, and 2 is, so maybe I should be getting error later on, but that doesn't matter. 2 is the exit code, right? So I get the second value, which is the exit code for the program, and I put it in a variable called exit code. Then I check if the exit code is 0, or actually this is wrong. If the exit code is 0 and the always print variable is false, then we just produce the exit code as a result of this thing, which is a result of this thing, which is a result of this thing. Otherwise, we first print 0, which is the standard output, and then we produce the exit code as the output. The problem that it's giving me is that it says that undefined function exit code. Fuck you mean by that? The error is also in this one, not in this one. I'm a little confused by what's going on here. But that's not what I want to work on today. I just kind of want to finish this because I was working on it before the stream, and it would be really useful, although it wouldn't really be useful for the stream because I want to work on the operating system that it doesn't use this build system. But still, it would be nice. Specifically, the error is here, which means this one works, but this one doesn't. Want to see if this works. Exit code is undefined. What do you mean exit code is undefined? Are you talking about something else? Is there another exit code I have not been informed of? There's these 4. It's declared right here. Lisp is being beautiful today. What I want to work on today most likely is going to be like my operating system's desktop environment. But again, I really hate to leave something so close to being done. So I want to take a couple minutes to fix this. Even though I think I'm going to be doing Lisp on Mondays, because I have a few projects that I want to do in Lisp. One is this, the build system, and obviously I'm going to be doing some bug fixing and whatnot. And another one I'll show in a second. It's essentially that document where I keep track of the project. Oh, here it is. Actually, I already have it open. I kind of want to do something with this, which is how I'm keeping track of the tasks that I need to work on. So I want to do a little parser for this or something. I'm not entirely sure, but I want to do it in Lisp. I don't even know what I want to do with it. I just know I want to do it in Lisp. Okay, so here's the thing. If I just put exit code here, will you complain? Yes, because exit code is undefined. How is exit code undefined? It is being declared in a variable in here. These are the declarations to the let. The let ends here. That means exit code is valid within the scope. I don't understand how it's undefined. Is this some weird naming thing? I'm gonna change its name. Is that it? Some EC is undefined. I'm declaring it right here, motherfucker. Although... Wait. Okay, now it's malformed. No, so that was correct. How it was. Okay, so I have a let here. This is the variable declaration. This is one of the variables. There's only one. There used to be two, but I moved it to be just one. Alright, now I can move the other one in as well. So these are the two variables. Result, which is this, and some EC, which is this. Those are the two variables that you are declaring. And then you're going to use those variables. You're essentially going to put this one as the end, and then close the let, and close the function. I don't understand where the problem is here, to be honest. The function is undefined. It is not a function, it is a variable. It also says undefined variable result. Is the word result not allowed? Undefined variable res. Oh, the error is actually longer than I thought. Defund program end value to res. This thing. Multiple value call. I am genuinely struggling to understand what this means. Okay, hold on. Let me do something real quick. I mean, instead of calling you, I'm just going to like completely blank program. Define a function. I'm not gonna call it test. There's a lot of names in Lisp that are like already taken, and you kind of can't take them, so I'm a little bit scared of calling this function test. Alright, I'm going to do let, and I'm going to create a variable inside of this. It's going to be called a, it's going to have value 1, and then I'm going to return a as the result of this, which is going to be the result of this, and finally I'm just going to call my function. A is undefined. Okay, so is the problem that I'm putting it in parentheses? Okay, that's the problem. I'm being dumb. That's how you return that. Look at that. Would you look at that? Okay. Alright, so now restore the build file how it used to be, ideally. Hello, Peter. Let me just like that, and then put this as it should be, which is like this, and get rid of that. And you don't... Oh, okay. So the problem was here because this is not a function call. This is just if then do this. This is the then statement. This is the else statement. This is the return of the else statement. Okay. Suddenly makes a lot more sense. Done with regular expressions for now, I think. Is unbound because I changed its name now. I have a few more things to do, but honestly, they do what I expect them to do, so I'm okay with that. We're still on the same though. Illegal function call with exit code. That is not a function call, that is a return. Unless I also have to do this here. Brother. Alright, hold on. Comment that out, and then do exit code. We good? No. The value nil is not of type number. Undefined variable res. Fuck you mean it's undefined? I am genuinely so confused by Lisp sometimes because what the fuck do you mean this is an undefined variable? How is it it's defined right here. I'm defining it right here. It has a definition. It has been given a definition. So is the problem this then? There's no way to get this shit to compile. Ah, wait. The value nil is not a number. What are you talking about? Okay. How about turn the nth value to res. This is literally the code as it used to be, except I now put it inside a variable and then I print here instead of doing it all in one line. The value nil is not a number. Okay. We're done with this shit. That's enough of that. Such an unhelpful REPL. Value nil is not a number. What the fuck does that mean? What value nil? Why are variables that I'm declaring considered undeclared? Could you make your error messages understandable, perhaps? Is that a thing that we can do? Maybe? I'm gonna go with no, it's not. Anyway. Moving on from all that. Again, the only reason I was doing that is I was doing that before the stream, and I figured kind of want to finish it. It's probably gonna be simple, just a small little compilation error. I'm sure it is. It's just that it's completely unhelpful error messages, so I don't understand where the compilation error was. But now I'm gonna be frustrated until I forget about it 5 minutes from now. I'm gonna be frustrated that I didn't get it to work. Oh well, I'll fix it after the stream, I guess. Okay, it is genuinely 1,000,000 degrees in here. Fucking amazing. Anyway, I wanted to work on my system's desktop environment. Because I didn't know what to work on. And of course I switched to KDE recently, and I found out that this mouse can grow forever. If you just keep doing this, it is just going to keep growing until it takes up the entire screen, and then it will continue to grow. I don't know what the theoretical limit is to the size of this thing, but I do know it's pretty cool. It's a completely useless feature, but it did get me to think that, you know, my cursor, if I could move my mouse right now, I would show you what my cursor is. The cursor inside my system is very limited in the way that it works. All right, I think that's enough. Thank you. It's very limited in the way that it works, and I kind of want to work on that a little bit. So there's a few things I want to work on. All right, so let's close this very frustrating thing and just run the operating system, which I completely forgot. The Z editor, for some reason, the Z terminal, for some reason, is not finding this DOS-FS tools, which it needs. I forgot to look into this and fix it yesterday. It has M tools, but not DOS-FS tools, which is very surprising because my normal terminal has it. My normal terminal is able to run this just fine, but Z is not. Either way, the dependency that we want is this one. So we can just... I'm not sure why one thinks that it's... is already the newest version. So I already have the damn tool. Then why is Zed complaining about me not having that tool? Okay. Anyway, everything runs perfectly fine from here, but the other terminal is like, oh, you don't have the tool that you need. That's ridiculous. Whatever. Create FS checks for... most likely, could it be because my Z configuration comes from Ubuntu? Maybe like some stuff there that's incompatible? I actually didn't even install Z. Just backing up my home folder and bringing it into this made Z appear magically. So that might be the reason why. Interestingly enough, it checks for a command called mkfsfat. That's the name of a command? Alright, let me finish explaining what I was going to explain. What I'm going to work on today, because I've already spent enough time doing the whole Lisp thing. This is the desktop environment for my system. It's a little minimalistic. You can't really tell what you can do. For example, you can draw windows, but did you know you can also... is it command? Is it alt? It's alt. See, I didn't even remember the exact command for this thing. You can draw on this thing, which is kind of lagging a little bit, but like, not like the system is lagging. I don't know, it's been weird. I'm not sure. Anyway, yeah, it has all this functionality, but you can't really, like, you don't really know what's going on. So maybe it's time to start giving it a dock. Like something, you know, a taskbar, a dock, a status bar, whatever you want to call it. Another thing that would be useful, you know, to differentiate between when you are in drawing mode and when you are in window drawing mode, so drawing a window or just like drawing random shit on the screen. All of this stuff, different cursors. So you can see, for example, my cursor here is just a normal pointer. That's the cursor for redacted. That's the only one that we currently have. Whereas here, where I'm editing text, it gives me that little, you know, text cursor. So maybe edit that. Maybe I want to have like multiple cursors. It does have Excalidraw built in, which is pretty cool. Although, again, it's lagging for some reason. But again, it doesn't feel like the system is lagging. It feels like Debian is lagging with it. I don't know. Is my FPS going up? It feels clumsy. It feels slow for some reason. I don't know what's going on with that. Anyway, one more thing I want to check, by the way. This game runs buttery smooth. Okay. So, this is a Ghost game that I built in like October, and I've been making some improvements to it and whatnot. And there's some more improvements I want to make to it, and then I want to like consider it to be finished. I kind of hadn't worked on it until recently. But yeah, I made a bunch of updates and whatnot. Like the characters have different colors now. I ran it, and it ran at an abysmal 5 frames. No, not 5 frames per second. 1 frame every 5 seconds. And the reason for that, actually, Zed is kind of to blame for this one. I was memory stress testing the engine. So essentially, where I have the number of maximum entities, I just did this. I was like, let me see how much memory that takes up. Because the ECS is as simple as possible. I can make a bunch of fixes to make it a little bit smarter than this, and I am going to do that, but I haven't done it because I haven't needed it. So it literally just creates static arrays with maximum number of entities. Now Linux actually optimizes for this somewhat. I guess it doesn't give you that memory until you need it or something. Not entirely sure what's happening. But yeah, I was doing that testing. On Linux, it works fine. On my system, it got a little slow. But then, I didn't mean to commit this change. Except yesterday I mentioned how when you're working on multiple projects, in the Git tab, it will sometimes change which project you're currently doing a commit for. Which means I accidentally did a commit for the engine without reviewing it and without realizing that I changed the number of entities to 100,000. From 1,000 to 100,000, with absolutely zero optimization to account for this fact, which made my game run on, again, 1 frame every 5 seconds. So thank you for that one, Zed. Very, very nice that you're vibe coding your entire Git stack, it seems. But at least we have work trees, a feature that literally nobody has ever used. Thanks for that one. Thanks, Zed. Anyway, now the game runs fine. So I needed to check that it runs fine on Debian. That's a thing that I hadn't checked. It runs well, to be fair, it's a very, very simple game. But it runs surprisingly well for a non-optimized... I'm not going to say poorly written, but it is unoptimized. Naively written, because it has no optimization. A single-threaded CPU rendering game running on an emulated virtual machine ARM running on a real x86 CPU. Considering all of those little layers of abstraction and all those little like factors that should make it struggle, it runs pretty well. Can your average React application say that? No, the fuck it cannot. Right? Are you gonna write another blog post about how you got your text rendering down from 400 milliseconds to only 100? Microsoft? Yes, you're gonna keep doing that because that's apparently something that's normal, something to brag about. We reduced text rendering to only 100 milliseconds. For reference, a game running at 30 frames per second gets, I believe, 32 milliseconds total for an entire frame. Everything, game logic, physics, rendering, all of that needs to happen in 32 milliseconds. That is a third of what Microsoft is using on text rendering only if you run at 30 frames per second. It's half of that if you want to run at 60 frames per second. 16 milliseconds. That's all you get. 16 milliseconds. Is that number even accurate? Am I doing math? The math headway? Yes, 16 milliseconds. And for 30 frames per second, you get 33 milliseconds. 0.333, whatever. Yeah, so that game does all that with barely any optimization, barely any fixes, barely any anything. And Microsoft is here like, ooh, ooh, your file has 100 lines of code. How am I gonna display that on GitHub? Ooh, oh my god, no. Brother. You know how many times you can literally open a page on GitHub and it will take literal minutes to load any file, small files. I don't have any files here that are more than 1,000 lines of code. Well, maybe a few that are more than 1,000, but I doubt there's anything that is more than 2,000 lines of code. And it struggles so badly with opening the most basic ones. It's ridiculous. Let me see how long it takes, for example. Maybe now it'll work fine. But again, if you've ever used GitHub, you know how shitty it can be. This is a pretty big file by my standards. We have 700 lines of code. What about string? String.h is a giant file. That's in a different repository. Alright, so already look how long it's taking to switch to a different repository. Then we're going to go to string. And then we're going to go to string.c, not string.h. Okay, this one loaded quickly. It's 1,200 lines of code. There's going to be times in which a much, much smaller file is going to take literally like a minute to load on GitHub. And these people are making blog posts bragging about, oh, we improved it to just 100 milliseconds. What kind of improvement is that? Anyway. Well, Microsoft is bad at engineering. Again, I'm not saying anything particularly interesting here. Alright, so I said what I was going to do. I'm going to work on this desktop environment. But again, I really would like to be able to use the integrated terminal in Z. Even though last time when I tried to compile a million lines of code, it crashed my entire system. Whereas, by the way, I did this part off stream because it crashed my stream. But when I tried to compile that same file on just a normal Ubuntu terminal, it worked perfectly fine. So, Z, scale issue. Add it to the list. It's amazing how quickly I'm turning against Z. Again, just the fact that it's so vibe-coded really destroys any potential it had. That's the issue. I was putting up with bugs because I thought it had potential, but when you tell me that the entire thing is so vibe-coded, suddenly it doesn't feel like it has potential anymore. That's the problem. Alright, so mkfs.fat, it's a very weird name for a program, but mkfs.fat, there we have it. Which mkfs.fat does not exist. So the path that you're using and the path that you're using must be different. Right? Because I doubt that the file doesn't exist. What was it? It's just that. It's just that. Grep for .fat. There's actually several commands called that. But I'm assuming Z doesn't have it in its path. So, let me do this thing kind of over here, just in case. Okay, besides the fact that I have two different export path variables, there's nothing going on here that's weird. Interesting. I didn't know I could do this. You can have a separate file called bash aliases. I'm not sure if there's anything sensitive in this file, so I'm not showing it. I don't think there's anything sensitive in this file. Bash rc. Is that not what's... is that not what this thing is using? Are you not using the bash rc file? Alright, there's only one way to know. echo the path. Not sure why I'm being so paranoid about this thing. However, my path. They're very different paths. These are not the same. Zed, what is going on? I'm so confused. I don't think there's any settings in here that should change what the path should be. So why are you being so weird about this? This is also like malformed. Because like these two folders are merged into one. I'm very, very confused. Okay, I see the issue now. Debian is not using the bash rc file. It is using something else. So that's console technically. It's using something else. Shell rc file. Okay, so how do I know which shell I'm using? Echo shell. Okay, it is that easy. All right, thank you. Bin bash. So you should be using the bash rc file, right? You would think. Etch. Bin bash. Okay, so you're both using the same rc file, but your path is different. Unless I am actually confused by this. Hold on. Where is path edited in bash? Uh, etc profile dot profile file in the home directory. The login program sets it to a default value. Okay, so is it in the dot profile file? Yeah, this one sets it. If running bash, include bashrc if it exists. But Z is not doing this then. This file is not read by bash if bash profile or bash login exists. Which, no, but bashrc is where I'm writing my path variables. By the way, I don't know why I'm using a folder called home bin when I should have called it bin, because it automatically handles this, but I actually have a folder called home bin. So that's a mistake on my part. Doesn't really matter though. Again, I'm just confused as to why I have two different paths. And why Z does not. I see. System shell looks good. From the current project directory, edit in settings.json for the environment variables, which it doesn't really do anything. Font size, line height, cursor blinking. I'm actually confused as hell. No, I would like to be able to sometimes tell Google to search something case sensitive, because path capitalized like this has a meaning. I'm not talking about any file path, I'm talking about path. This is actually so confusing. I don't know. Z is apparently choosing not true. I can always do that. Yeah, thank you. Don't know why I forgot that you can do that. Thank you. Yeah, what the hell is going on? How can you provide custom path and home to the terminal? Okay, so this person's doing this. Read or set by the shell you run in the terminal. But I am running bash. And I have a bash. I'm using bin bash on both. But the path is different. How is that possible? Is that a thing that can happen? Both console and Z are using the same exact shell. Both of them are using bin bash. How is it possible then that I have two different behaviors? As an environment, I don't know. And the thing is that it is picking up my bash rc file, because these come from the bash rc file, which, by the way, I fixed this, so that should be fixed now. Okay, that's gotten way longer. Hold on. You're being real weird about this. Damn it, I quit the entire application. Anyway, maybe that'll fix it. Home bin and reports, they're now separate. Okay, so that's fixed. But I still don't see other folders that the other one does. It's actually... I'm so lost right now. Wait. What's the name of the thing that I'm looking for? mkfs.fat. It's still found. User sbin. There it is. User bin. But no user sbin. What? What is happening? How is the path different inside of two different terminals within the same shell? Can that even happen? Like physically, can that even happen? That feels like a new one. Don't think I've heard that before. Profile is ignored in favor of bash profile, so maybe there's something in that? That's empty. It doesn't exist. And it's also ignored in favor of bash login, which is also empty. So bash profile is run, and Zed, what the fuck? Zed, what the actual fuck is happening? Okay. I should be able to fix this by doing export path with the old path as well as user sbin. Not a valid... Your mom's not a valid identifier. What do you mean not a valid identifier? Oh, okay. There. There. And there. So I can fix it during this session, so I can at least work off this damn thing. But what the hell is happening? I've never seen the same shell from two different terminals behave differently because it has different environment variables. That's never happened before. How does that even happen? How is that even possible? Like, both of them are reading one file, but they're not reading another. I don't know which file that is. It's probably the, like... I wonder if it has anything to do with that. Just the fact that it's not allowed to read, like, the system... configuration file. I forgot what that one's called. It's like in /etc or something. Maybe that's the issue. It's not allowed to read like the global one. It can only read the one for my user. And the sbin definition is located outside of it. Could that be it? I don't know. Again, I didn't actually install Zed. It just came in my home folder and it's been... yeah. It just attached itself like a parasite to my home folder and now it's here. So probably that's what's happening. That's the only plausible explanation I have. It's a permission issue. Is there any other possible explanation? I don't know. Whatever, man. Whatever. Let's move on. Let's actually get something done because it's been 50 minutes and nothing's gotten done. Besides, failing to write Lisp and failing to work with terminals. So it's a great experience so far for a programming streamer. It's going well. Hello, Stony. Okay, I just accidentally activated the timer on my fan, and in order to not float away in my own sweat, I need that to not be the case. It's hot as fuck in here, honestly, but it's fine. Alright, so desktop environment. Again, we don't really have any indication, besides like having a taskbar or like a status bar or whatever, we don't really have any indication of, hold on, I opened an application like instinctively, but this is what it looks like by default. We don't really know what you can do. I do remember someone suggesting that I use the this cursor a long time ago when I actually asked this question the first time. This kind of cursor to indicate that you can draw in this view here. And then also maybe the pencil cursor, you know, one like this, to indicate that you can draw like this. Even without a status bar and without a dock, I think that those would be pretty good indicators of, you know, what you can do in the system, at least. I hope so. And I want to make it as intuitive as possible. So I kind of want to do that. I kind of need to do that. I kind of need to have some sort of path renderer because the current cursor, I forgot to show it. I showed it like yesterday or the day before, I believe, but the day before I didn't stream, so it must have been yesterday. I showed what the cursor looked like yesterday. It looks like this. This is the cursor. It's alright. It's alright. And it was also a contribution, so thank you for the contribution. However, it isn't exactly the best. And also, it cannot do this. It can't do this. And if it cannot do this, it really is not worth much now, is it? Can it grow to the size of the screen? No? Then that's probably not a very good cursor. But most importantly, I would need to draw another one of these for every single kind of icon that I want to create. So of course, instead I thought of a path rendering type of thing, which will also be useful for fonts, because fonts kind of do path rendering. If I'm not mistaken, they do the Great Reset of Excalidraw is still painful to look at. I'm gonna keep this because I haven't done it, and I need content. Well, actually, no, fuck it. Let's get rid of it. Let's try to keep Excalidraw a little bit clearer this time. It's gonna last about a day, but whatever. If I'm not mistaken, essentially the way that you do something like, just want like path rendering, right? So it would be like, you know, put a point here, draw it here, 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 and then fill it back there, and then, you know, the path renderer is just gonna do this. And unfortunately, the very, very big kind of drawback to doing things this way is I will need to rasterize. I will need to actually I just thought about that, and I'm not sure I want to do it anymore. It should be a 90°, you're correct about that. Also, I'm running Debian. Had issues with literally all of Linux. Fuck's sake, this system pisses me off. So yeah, now I'm on Debian. It's marginally better than the alternative. Yeah, actually, I have no issues with Debian by itself. I have issues with X11 and Wayland both. And with the Linux community for allowing these issues to happen. Anyway, that's how you would do path rendering, but again, I did forget about the fact that you would have to rasterize this thing, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I mean, I do. However, I do have a 3D renderer. And that 3D renderer, it would be nice to use it to, well, not a 3D renderer, just a renderer in general. It would be nice to integrate it in here and be able to generate the icon based on that, because it automatically does rasterization. And you really only need to run it once. You don't need to run it every frame. Well, you need to run it once, and then when the cursor resizes, also you would need to run it. But again, you don't need to run it all the time. So that would be kind of nice to do it that way. Should I maybe pursue this line of this course of action? Is that maybe a thing that I should do? Because rendering a font, okay, when I'm rendering a cursor, I render to a 64 by 64. When I'm rendering a font, do I render to a character and then just like cache that render and just like paste it in different places? That makes sense, right? So I wouldn't mind doing it this way. Then again, the rendering algorithm that I need here isn't exactly the same that a normal 3D renderer should handle, but a renderer should handle it, so. Once again, I'm getting caught up on where should I put this, what project should this be a part of, instead of actually doing the damn thing, and that kind of sucks. But at the end of the day, it kind of makes sense at the same time. Alright, let me see how the 3D renderer is doing actually. I haven't used that in a really long time. It's called 3-2D. It uses my old build system, which is of course not exactly ready. Alright, so maybe it's time to give it a little bit of an upgrade. That way I can also integrate it into the operating system itself. That should be a thing. Alright. Z is not installed. Okay, so yeah, definitely some misconfiguration happening. Alright, where's the build file? Here. Alright, so by default, it does cred compilation, so I'm better off just upgrading this file. False, I believe I need to do that. Then I need to do, that should be enough, probably. Rebuild self takes an argument, which is, where are you at? Here. Emit, okay, yeah. Emit compile commands, that's a true. Okay. Yeah, much easier to do that than to port to the new build system, which, by the way, is the code that I was failing to compile on Lisp at the beginning of the stream. So, all right, here's the 3D renderer. I was doing some like octree rendering with this. Interesting. All right, so it's able to compile as a library. No, it's not. No, it's not. It doesn't currently compile as a library, but maybe I want it to be able to do that. I'm gonna rewrite all this code anyway, so lib. what lib is going to do is it's going to create a new module, which, by the way, modules, stupid concept I never ended up keeping. We're going to call it 32D. That's the name of the library that you're going to be generating. You're then going to be setting the package type to be a lib and target native without overriding the global target. That's what the false stands for. Then include this. Not sure why that would ever fail. It's literally just, oh, because this can fail, okay. And then compile without running. That's what we want. So return compile. Alright, so instead of running this, I run this. Okay. Although I do need to render cursors. So I kind of want to, well, not even cursors, just paths. I'm going to call it paths.c. That is going to be the file that we build. And you are, again, going to build it off paths.c. I'm just going to be writing boilerplate, so there's an ad running on Twitch during that time. And I'm just going to copy the main function here. And I feel like having a path renderer that is GPU accelerated or pretending to be GPU accelerated, well, really it just runs on the main thread, is fine. Is probably the best approach I can have to this kind of thing. Right? Yes? No? I have no clue. I think so. But most importantly, it allows me to start including this library into the yeah, because the entire point of this renderer is not to just render graphics. It's supposed to just not to like render graphics on a screen in like the traditional like game sense, for example. It's more of a pipeline which can do anything. So yeah, this is just gonna be a pipeline that renders points into a path. Seems good to me. Sounds like a decent idea to me, I think. I hope. I guess we'll see. Alright, so we're making a pipeline using width, height, and a frame buffer. Then this is making a mesh. I don't really want to make a mesh. Since am I any of it? Assuming you know how to prioritize input latency. Okay, so again, this isn't gonna run like every time you touch the cursor. It's just supposed to be a pipeline that, okay, I need to render this cursor now. And it renders it to the size that you request. That's it. It just has a tiny little bit of overhead with configuring the pipeline, but then it will have the convenience of being GPU accelerated when it is able to do that, which is not right now. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna manually fill this array of vectors, which is going to have four points, not 5, 4 points. Ah, wait, it's a little more complex than that. Okay, so 4 points. And 1, 2, 3, 4 segments. All right. The number of vertices is going to be 4, hard-coded. The number of segments is going to be 4, hard-coded. All right, so I hope this whole way of doing it makes sense. The thing is, it sounds very wasteful, but it really isn't. Also, why am I copying this? I copied off of octree.c, whereas this one is doing pre-rendering, which essentially just like renders a 3D asset into a BMP image. That is almost exactly what I want. That is actually exactly what I want, except I don't want it to a BMP image. I want it to just pixels. So format agnostic. But like that is kind of what I want, so I'm okay with it rendering to a BMP image for the time being. This is absolutely perfect. Except you're not going to use it. Well, you are going to use files because you're going to write the image to a file, but you're not going to you're not going to input any file. You're not going to use meshes. You're not going to use OBJ format, and you're not going to use input. So we're going to get rid of those. All right, so we don't need a mesh. We have default fragment shader and a pixel shader that does whatever the hell this one's doing. Don't care. Again, we're going to hard code 4 vertices, 4 segments. We're making a perspective camera for some reason, when orthographic I think would make... Oh, okay. Because this was rendering actual assets. Orthographics makes more sense for what I'm trying to do. Okay. The vertices are going to be hard-coded for the time being. 0, 0, I think makes sense. Spectre 3, forgot about that. And also C's type system has dementia, so it literally forgets what type this is. You have to specify it here. Whereas some other, if I do it like this, if I write this, I'm able to just do this. But if I do this, then it already forgot the type. So I need to specify it here. That's really annoying. Anyway, thanks C. And again, does maybe a newer C standard do that better? I don't know. I've chosen to stay to C99 and maybe I'm gonna upgrade to 11. Don't know why I'm being so strict about that. Anyway, 0, 0, 0 is the first one. Then the second one is going to go to newer standards don't do that. That's shitty. Well, actually, why am I talking about upgrading standards when I'm literally making a C improvement language? A kill. C improvement language. By the way, that is officially what my programming language is. It is a C improving language or C improvement language. You choose. Anyway, 0 on the y-axis, 0 on the x-axis, 1 on the y-axis, 0 on the other one. So that's the bottom one. Then next one is going to be 0.25. Right, so we've drawn this one. Now we're going to do 0.25. 0.25 up here, so 0.75. The next one is going to go almost to 1, let's say 0.9. And it's going to go to the end, so 0.5, to the end here, 0.5. That will make it actually chunkier than it looks here, but I guess that's fine. And those are our 4 vectors, 2 and 3. And then the subwoof, I actually want to create a little helper for it. Path draw and vert count. Well, that would be a closed path draw, which is going to handle this automatically. For int I equals 0, I is smaller than vert count, I plus plus, then we're going to draw a segment between the current one and the next one. By the way, a segment count. There are 4 segments, but I never remember. Is that the number of segments or the number of integers? I believe it's probably the number of integers, right? So that would mean path segment count given an int vert count is going to be the number of vertices times 2. Closed path segment count, because every segment connects to the next one. The last segment connects to the first one, but either way it has a connection that starts from it. So I believe that's going to be the number of segments. That would be closed segment path count given the vertices count. These are the vertices, and then we should be able to do closed segment draw, closed path draw, using the suboof pointer and the vertex count. Alright, so each vertex I is going to connect to itself and then the next one. So we're also going to need to keep like an index, because the index is going to increase twice. No, we don't need an index. sbuff pointer I times 2 plus 0. The value of that is going to be I. And plus 1, the value of that is going to be I plus 1, with the exception of the last one. If I is equal to vert count minus 1, we're on the last path. In that case, the value of... No. In that case, the value of this is going to be 0, the first one. Right, to close the loop. That's the entire point of closed path draw. And I'm sure if I wanted to make it a little bit better, and I just wanted to make it path, I could just indicate whether it's closed or not. And then this happens if it's closed. If it's not closed, we just don't do a path for the last one, because that's just an ending, right? Essentially, if the loop is not closed, then that segment doesn't exist. And likewise, same thing there. Which technically means this condition won't happen, so we won't even get to this point. Yeah, I think we're good. It is going to be a closed path. It is going to be a closed path. Alright, so that should draw our vertex. And that should draw to a texture called test.bpmp. Or at least I hope so. Looks good to me. Looks good to me. Yes. Very good, very good. First off, making this absolutely gigantic, but that There could be a lot of things happening here. Is there no path whatsoever? Is it really small? You know, not very easy to tell. Did I do these wrong? Alright, there is one way to know. We can always just increase one of these to a ridiculous amount and see what the output is. There's still no output. Okay, so probably not a sizing issue. Maybe the orthographic camera failed? I feel like I remember there being a bug with the orthographic camera, maybe that's why I disabled it. But no. Alright, so let me instead try to compile prerender.c and see if that works. That does pre-render this asset. Makes it look kind of weird, but it does pre-render it. Alright, so does the orthographic camera work? I feel like that one did fail. Yes, the orthographic camera does not work. So I'll need to use a perspective camera. Alright, at least I know that. I need to use a perspective camera. And that, of course, does affect the distances that this works at. Also, I put everything at distance 0, so that's also not helping. But the overall thing should work. Yeah, I was kind of hoping that would work. Alright, it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell. Maybe if I stare at the code long enough, I'll know what's wrong with it. Okay. So that already confirms what I thought. When you create a segment buffer, it just creates it with the number that you gave it, size of an integer. So the number of elements is correct. There's going to be 2 per segment, 2 integers per each. But those integers, are they being rendered correctly? That's another question that I need to ask. Zero through 1, 1 to 2, 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 0. That is very correct. That is incredibly correct, as a matter of fact. Except it's not incredible. I figured this would work. Oh, but I am being a little stupid here. That isn't really gonna render us triangles. I kind of forgot about that. This 3D renderer does not render them as triangles. It just renders them as just random ass shapes. So in reality, I want to triangulate them. I was doing some triangulations. I want to triangulate my paths. Okay, I'm going to do it manually for the time being. It's probably going to be a lot easier. There's going to be one triangle, which is going to be 0, 1, 2, and there's going to be another triangle, which is going to 0, 1, 2, right? So this part. And then another triangle, which is 0, 2, 3. Again, there is ways of automating this, but what's the point? That actually reduces the number of segments from 8 to 6. And we are just going to hardcode them. Why I switched to KDE is Ubuntu shit the bed. I switched to Debian. Debian also shit the bed, but slightly less. Well, no, really, Debian, it's just X11 did, and so did Wayland, so I'm very pissed off at both of them. But I guess this kind of works. Again, I'm just disappointed by how much work you have to do just to get a decent setup on Linux, but whatever. That's the reason I switched to KDE. I switched to Debian, and Debian had KDE, and I like it. I'm also on Wayland, but like every important application is actually running on X11, so that's what I mean by both of them actually shit the bed. X11 cannot comprehend the possibility of me having two different displays with different DPIs, and Wayland cannot comprehend the possibility of me having software that I use, because it has bugs everywhere. Yeah, the experience with Linux has been lovely so far, I have to say. Fuck's sake. Okay, so this is not working. The Octave example, if I'm not mistaken. Uses negative values, so maybe I should be using negative values. Now I'm starting to feel like I am actually overthinking this entire thing. Using a 3D renderer, or 3D capable renderer to render a mouse cursor is failing. Or is anyone surprised when I put it that way? Probably not. Am I ever going to get anything showing up on this thing? Hmm. Four vertices, two triangles, 6 segments. This perspective camera here. I'm not sure about these sizes, but I do expect them to do something at some point, right? Render everything to a... Wait. I'm still calling this function, so that's messing up my triangles. I figured I would fix it. Encode, setting this buffer, this segment, no encoding error, and then write the result to test. Didn't work. Alright, so this is the buffer. And this is the size of the buffer, so I do wonder, can I iterate through it and see if there's any values that aren't 0? if I cast this thing, of course, to a U32 pointer, go up to index. Thank you. Yes, it should. It should do that. Okay, so all those are non-zero, which is crazy. And then segfaults, I wonder if it's the print that's segfaulting? It is the print that's segfaulting. There's our cursor. Thank you. Forgot to check the indexes. Okay, this is supposed to be 0.25. It's still very, very small, and it's all on this side. Do I have a job? I do. Okay, so I actually don't want to use the camera position, like for anything. So maybe I want to use the z-axis for something? I don't know. Let me go back to the one that worked, which is 25. It's giant over here. All right. So this one is 25. It's the third one, not the second one. Oh, that is a problem. All right, hold on. So 25's got to be on this side. 0's got to be here. All right, first off, the position of the camera does not matter whatsoever. We do use the projection matrix. We output. That looks good to me. All right, so let me try making you 25. What happens there? Nothing. If I make you 25, then it renders this. All right, what if I put you at 1? Should be smaller, right? Okay, that's starting to make more sense. Oh, so no, hold on. This is my cursor. But why is it rendering slanted like that? This is my cursor. It's just like it goes to 25. It goes very big like that. And the other ones must be so small that they don't render at all or something? Like if I make this 5, what happens? Okay. Starting to understand more what's happening. Make this 2. Build. Alright. This is weird though. Is it just the perspective being messy here? I feel that's probably what it is. Because I'm using a perspective camera instead of an orthographic camera, because the orthographic camera does not work for some reason. I mean, maybe it works here. Who knows? No. Not as I would expect it anyway. Does not seem to work. Although I do need the orthographic camera here because I'm doing like a 2D rendering. Which, frankly, I should just make the renderer capable of doing 2D without doing 3D at all, but it doesn't currently do that. I kind of just wanted something basic here, but I might actually just hard code it and do this some other time. Like, I do want it to be able to render paths from well, render paths to 2D, but this pipeline is really made for 3D right now, which means that I am kind of trying to hack it together to do 2D. And it would be easier if I make it do 2D properly, but I don't really want to do that. So yeah, okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm instead going to create the logic of assuming we already have a bunch of images. I can even like make them in like a sprite or something, which I don't have it open, but I have it on Steam, so I have to. I'm just gonna make some pre-made cursors and use those. Then I might leave this part for tomorrow or after I've done the switching between cursors, which I think is just gonna be more interesting. And okay, I was gonna stop it because there was an Elden Ring update, but apparently that was really, really quick. Yeah, I switched to Plasma because I switched to Debian and it has Plasma and it's honestly so much better than GNOME. It looks better. It's a genuinely unimportant thing though. The truth is everything on Linux sucks. Alright, 64 by 64 I believe is the size that one of the GPUs forces you to use for cursors, so it's perfect. I was trying to make this window bigger and somehow I just ended up making this. Can I zoom in? How do I do that? I forgot how this program works now. Why is it so small in the first place? I'm used to it being bigger. The zoom tool. Alright. Okay. Alright, so the one cursor I want to create, I am not used to this layout. I think I've lost my layout, or I don't know. Oh no, okay. The one thing I want to create is a very simple cursor that is black and white. If I'm not mistaken, I added the ability to like tint things, but I might have done that only to my game engine, so maybe it's worth moving it over to the library. But anyway, it's going to be this cursor. Very, very simple to make. Which is actually the exact cursor that Sprite is using right now. Nope. Kind of. Should there be a little space? There should be a little space. So let me start over. Instead of doing it here, do it here. Okay. That is it. I don't know, it's not exactly the best design, but whatever. Again, I really wanted to render itself through the renderer instead of the hard-coded BMP that I'm creating. But I believe I'm more interested in doing the operating system part of, switching the cursors than going back to a super old project for 3D rendering and um, OS. And was I late to meet my friends from last stream? What do you mean? Do I want to put it in the kernel? It's not necessarily shared library type of thing that I want here. It shouldn't be in the shared library. It should just. I'm actually going to put it in the file system. That's where it makes sense to have it. System. We're going to create a new file. It's going to be cursors, and we're going to save it as crosshair. I'm saving the sprite, which technically is not going to get committed. Whatever. Export as a bump. Where did you export that? Where did you export that? You didn't ask me where to export that. Hello? What is all this? Anyway. KDE shit. Okay, it exported it here, which is where I wanted it, but that's very surprising. 16 kilobytes. No, that's definitely not the same channel that you're talking about. This image should be 4 kilobytes. Why is it 16? Ah, wait. 4 channels. Yeah. RGBA. A cursor is 16 kilobytes. That is ridiculous. That is not normal. And yet it's a 64 by 64 image, which is what I require to use. So that is kind of ridiculous. Anyway, I'm also going to make a, no, here, file new. I'm used to Apple with all the status bars are here and it changes based on the application. Unfortunately, we won't be able to do this very well today because cursors are not going to be, super zoomable. That's one thing of doing it as a path drawing instead of doing it as a sprite, is that you should be able to zoom it, whereas this is just going to end up looking very weird if you zoom it in a little bit. Is there someone else doing OS stuff? That's I need to meet my frenemy. Who is that? All right, so there we have a cursor. Great sprite. Again, the thing that we're competing against, these sprites are competing against this thing. Just gonna show it again because yeah, this is the competition. This is you and the guy she told you not to worry about. So that is a reference I have not heard in a long time. What is this one called? Pointer? Let's call it pointer. We're going to save it, and we're also going to export it as a bpmp. By the way, is there a way that I can I just realized I'm doing operating system development in a sprite. That's not a very common thing. You don't consider that a lot. Okay, so file export, I want BMP by default. All right, and the last one I want to create, which by the way, this is such a waste of space. What the fuck is this asset? Now, hold on. We're redoing that. Except, see, I kind of need it to maintain the size, but screw it. We're redoing that. That was horrible. If I'm using 64 by 64, why am I not using the whole thing? Or at least, as much as I can, because, yeah. It's not like this cursor shape can use all the entire space that I have available, but it should use a little bit more than it was using, so. Export as pointer the bump, and yes, override. Alright, the last one I want to make. What is the zoom tool? It's Z, but I don't remember having to use a zoom tool before. Anyway, the last one I want to make is a little bit more complex. It's the pencil. So it's gonna look kind of like this. Is that the right number? No, I'm missing one. Right, kind of like that. Then okay. This feels surgical in the amount of precision it requires. Except, see, I got that wrong. See, I did that wrong, which means that all of this thing is wrong now. This pencil's turning out like shit, to be honest. Alright, that's slightly better. I'll improve it later. Again, I'm not trying to do a whole lot here. But, this goes that. And then, again, what does a pencil cursor look like? I think they're a little bit more complex than, well, they have this, usually, this little line. So I'm gonna add that little line. There. Alright, didn't mean to do that, or that. Alright, so you and you and you need to be black. And then you and you need to be white. Except ideally, we make the white here a little bit bigger. Like that. Okay, that kind of looks like a pencil, I guess. Oh, wait. Hold on, thanks for the super chat. I didn't notice that it was that. Because this is what it looks like in my chat. Shit. My god, these fucking window managers. Or whatever the hell the problem is. This is what it looks like. Why is it getting cut off? So, not exactly the most readable thing, but thank you for that. Wait, I'm exporting. I shouldn't be exporting. Why am I exporting? All right, so I want to save this as pencil, and then I want to export it as pencil.bmp. All right, so now I have 3 cursors. I can close ASprite, which is again a very cursed tool to do operating system development in. You don't hear that one a lot. It doesn't happen a whole lot. And now I can do, instead of utils, cursor manager.h. It's gonna do a pragma once. And this thing is going to allow us to switch between different cursor types. All right, so I kind of want to use just integers to represent cursor types. I'd love to use enums, but we don't have enums. Well, we do have enums. But it's kind of meant to load the cursors from the disk, show which ones are available, and use that. So I have to use ints because I don't know them ahead of time. I don't know them at compile time, essentially. Okay. Include types. Okay, so given a cursor name, it's going to give us that. Then we want to have a switch cursor function. Char, no, not name, using an index, an ID for the cursor. Why am I wasting time with IDs? Like I'm optimizing stuff by just like doing a lookup table here. Like that's not necessary. Just switch to a cursor based on a name. All right, I don't need to currently do this, but list cursors. I'm also going to create this function. It's gonna help me debug. Cursor manager.c, and then also I am going to need a define cursor width 64, define cursor height 64, void pointer get cursor. And maybe in the future I'll want a get resized cursor. Get a resized cursor by width and height. But who cares about this? Yeah, I gotta make it work first. It's cursor manager.h. All right, so I want to implement these 4 functions. Let's get rid of that. Actually, the easiest way to implement this is that this function just returns this one using the default width and height. And this one will just fetch the cursor and then this will just fetch the cursor, and if the width and height are different than this, or width or height actually, is not equal to cursor width, or the height is not equal to cursor height, then resize it. Resize the image. All right, list cursor is just going to traverse the directory found at /boot/redOS/. system/cursor non-recursively and traverse using a print cursor function, which is just going to take a const char directory and a const char name, and it's just going to print the name. That's not how you print that. Print the name. All right. And switching the cursor needs to do this. I also need to have a default cursor. I forgot about that. There needs to be a void default cursor, which again internally is just going to call this thing. By the way, this I want to return a boolean. Switch cursor is going to be the function that does the thing that it needs to do. And default cursor is just going to try to run this with pointer. BMP. And if that fails, then fall back to existing cursor. All right, so if that fails, we're going to use what we already have, which I'll need to look at the logic of how we're doing rendering from zeros and ones. Just a bitmap. But we are translating that to pixels. Okay. So switch cursor is going to need to read the full file. No, even load BMP called. I'll need to do that. The BMP is going to be this thing, which I can actually just like define. It's going to be that thing and the name of the cursor. So the cursor directory and then the name of the cursor. And we're simply going to load that. And free the string. Wait. Is this? Yeah, load BMP should give me pixels. So the cursor pixels becomes this thing. And if no cursor pixels, then return false. Okay. That should be easy enough. All right, so get resized cursor. We already have the image actually, which is just this. And then cat resize cursor is just going to print a cursor implementation error. Because I'm not going to bother with this. Resizing cursors not supported. First I gotta make actual cursors and then do that. And then just do current pixels, like that. So I'm actually not keeping the name of the current cursor anywhere for any particular reason. But I guess I do need to fall back by just doing this. All right. Forgot where the code for this is. Here. Oh, the FB draw cursor is the one that handles that already. Inside of a draw context, that is a bit unnecessary. But I guess it's fine. Alright, so essentially, this cursor library, what it's doing is it is taking a draw context, which is made up of a width of 64, a height of 64. Wait, hold on. I was actually going to create a helper for this. I'm just going to do that real quick. Make draw context. Dummy draw context. No, just return a draw context, right? With a width and height. You're going to return a draw context given by the width specified by this, the height specified by this, a stride, which is the width times the size of a U32, which is the size of color, actually makes it clearer, and then a frame buffer, which is going to be a z allocated section of width times height times size of color. Alright, so you're going to return that. So you need to include allocate. Alright, now I can use this function. Why is the file that I'm working on never visible where I need it? Dummy draw context 64 by 64. And that way I can do FB draw cursor into this context. And its color is going to be... Didn't even realize we were doing different colors. We are doing different colors, right? Its color is going to be white. Alright. That should create the default cursor, and then eventually I should be able to switch the current cursor. But of course I need to plug all of this into the GPU. Because this GPU here is the one that's... Don't do that right now. This GPU here is the one that is doing the rendering of the cursor. No, hold on. That's not the GPU that I'm using right now. Oh, okay, it's here. It's just a parent class. C++ can be useful sometimes, it turns out. And I kind of want to make a default so that if there is no cursor pixels, then default cursor. And then I also forgot that the cursor pixels get set to the context frame buffer. All right. So just calling get cursor should already create a cursor with this. And so I should be able to just get your cursor by doing get cursor. Although you use draw contexts for this, which is annoying. All right, there's an ad starting, so I'm going to be right back and I'll continue this later. Alright. Yesterday I was complaining about OBS not having browser tabs on Wayland because, again, Linux is a janky piece of... but I just changed the name of the stream and it took me genuinely like 10 seconds to type 2 words because it's that slow. So maybe Linux is not entirely to blame. Maybe we should also blame the web browser and the JavaScript community. Anyway, computing is in a fucking abysmal state right now. It just fucking sucks. Alright. Should have a cursor manager that manages my cursor now. I should just be able to use it to render me a new cursor, including the BMPs that I just made. Although, get cursor and get resized cursor should not return void pointers. They should return draw contexts, which comes from graphic types, and give us information on the size of the thing that you're rendering. Alright, so I just made a dummy draw context, but besides that, I also want buffer to draw context. Which is just going to handle this. And for that matter, that simplifies this function into just returning buffer to draw context, where the buffer needs to be zalloc. I should have copied that. Given width and given height. Alright. Cursor manager now. Again, you no longer return just the pixels. Well, yeah, you return the... I'm not using the current cursor name for anything, so I'm just gonna get rid of that. But what I do use is the current cursor. I'm gonna make it into a draw context. That's gonna make it a lot easier to deal with this, because now I just assign it like this. I can do current cursor buffer to draw context, where the buffer is that pixels that gets taken from that, info width, and info height. Although we should check that if info.width is not equal to 64 or info.height is not equal to cursor height, then return false. And this is cursor width. Alright. That should do it properly. That should be enough. Alright. That actually returns a draw context, which is going to be easier for me to work with. So now instead of doing new cursor, instead of calling this function, I'm going to get rid of it. Although it does use a name, a color for the cursor, which I'm currently not using. So maybe I should have also included that. Well, I'll handle that later. Let me do one thing at a time. Let me get the new cursor in and then do that. This would be default cursor. No, just get cursor. And that's it. That is literally it, apparently. Oof. Designator order for field. Oh my god. Because I'm including the shit from the fuck-ass language C++, I'm not doing it in the right order, so it complains. The poor thing. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I'm not doing it in the right order. Fuck-ass language. Stride with high. And I have to manually set all of these to a valid value, otherwise it is going to complain because I didn't do it right. Or you're not initializing the thing correctly. Oh, fuck right off. With your fucking language that doesn't even work. Oh, I'm doing a conversion from a void buffer to a U32 buffer. I'm not doing that explicitly. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, this language fucking sucks, man. Oh, I'm doing a conversion from a signed integer to an unsigned integer. Oh no. Christ, what a fucking horrible language. You've got to be joking me. All of these fuck-ass errors I'm getting are all coming from C++. C++ is like, oh, you're using the wrong sign here. It's technically, you're narrowing. You're doing a narrowing conversion. Okay, so I had code that worked perfectly fine, but now I have to do all this shit for C++ so that its compiler is not going to complain about stupid shit. I hate this language with a passion. Now I need to do this so that functions from C are going to be available. Otherwise I'm doing it wrong. Oh, I'm so sorry, C++, am I not? Because I'm not explicitly zero initializing fields that should be zero initialized. Because I'm not explicitly telling you about signage. And because I'm not explicitly marking the functions as available from C++. Such a skill issue from the compiler. It's genuinely so horrifying to look at. Okay, that is the cursor, right? How do I know if it worked? How do I... Well, I could know if it worked by using pencil as a default cursor. No, that didn't work. All right. I would love to know how it's getting a cursor, but it's not actually working. That's kind of shocking to be able to do. Okay, so I guess what's happening is that it's failing to load the cursor. Failed to load cursor. Don't care about misspelling all that shit. There we go. Okay, yeah, it's failing to load the cursor and not telling me why. Cool, so you can fail if the size of the cursor is wrong, or you can fail if you fail to load the image. Those are the only two ways that this can possibly fail, so. Wrong cursor size IXI. Expected IXI. And here just print cursor error, failed to load cursor image. Not really sure what else is going on. Wrong size 0, 0. Oh, that's not correct. Oh, you know what's definitely not correct? Is checking the size before actually loading the image. There's the pencil. It's horrible, it's gigantic. And it doesn't even align with the thing. It's looking the wrong way. But at least it loaded. After basic stuff like exceptions, I actually did GPU probably after exceptions. Yeah, serial exceptions GPU essentially. I think. I'm not used to this file manager. It looks weird as hell. Anyway, pencil. Here you are. I need to open Steam again. I should not have bought this thing on Steam. Why do I own this thing on Steam? Now I need to log in to Steam every time I wanna edit a sprite. And it doesn't even remember. I'm actually so disappointed by software development in general, especially since AI, but just generally how difficult it is for any application to remember why you opened it. This happens so often. I opened this application by clicking on this thing. And it fails to open. It doesn't know what I told it to do. So now I need to do it manually. This happens so often, and it mostly happens like on mobile whenever you're like gonna click a YouTube link and it's like oh, not a YouTube link, maybe like an Instagram profile. You click on an Instagram profile and it takes you to your browser instead of the Instagram app, and it's like, and then it's like, you need to log in to look at this profile. So you had taken me to the app, I would have already been logged in. And then it's like, get the app. It's a better experience. You already have the app. So you click on that, and what it does is it takes you to the App Store. And even if you click on open in the App Store, it actually won't work. Isn't the modern internet just so amazing? Anyway, it turns out that just rotating the sprite like this will actually not make it aligned. Like, this is not aligned. Seems like it doesn't let me align it properly, but I should be able to just flip it if I learn how to do that. Rotation pivot, transparent, no. You can't have two instances of a game open on Steam. Since this is technically a Steam game, yeah, I can't have two instances of it open. And I bought it because I genuinely was like, you know what, they made it, I wanna... it would make sense for me to pay for it. There you go, that's fixed. What the fuck did I just do? Okay. They made it, I might as well pay for it, support this program. And holy fuck, now I have to look at this every time I want to edit a sprite. Yeah, at least like... Can I not log out from here? Fuck's sake. I just wanted to log out of Steam itself. Anyway, let's see if that works. Genuinely using software in 2026 is such an annoying experience overall. Alright, that looks a little bit better because the pencil actually like fits where you're supposed to be drawing. It's still ugly as shit, but that's neither here nor there. That's actually not an operating system issue. That's just a me doing assets issue. That's the one I like the least, actually. Alright, crosshair should be the default, actually. Well, not really. It's just that crosshair makes sense here. Because, yeah, it shows you that you can draw windows there. It's a little bit too big, though. They're a little bit too big, so I might want to resize them. But again, resizing is a thing later. x86 has sine, cosine, and tangent? I don't know. No idea. Couldn't say anything about x86. Alright, the problem is that I don't really have a way of telling the GPU to switch to a different cursor. I actually don't know how this works. Like, hold on, does GLFW allow me to do that since I know how to use that? It's the only like graphics library that I know how to use. Switch cursor. I'm sure every operating system has its own incredibly stupid way of doing it because, again, all operating systems are stuck in the 70s in terms of graphics. Mode? No, that disables it or enables it. Cursor objects. System theme cursor images. Okay, so standard cursor. Create cursor and create standard cursor and destroy it with destroy cursor. And glf terminate. Alright, these are the ones I wanted. Turns out there is kind of a very standard type of cursor that exists. So I should just be able to use that instead of using the cursor name directly, which is kind of stupid. The thing is, I want to be able to tell the cursor manager to change the current cursor, and the GPU picks up on that change without needing to talk to the GPU directly. Because the GPU right now just gets its cursor from here. It actually has two, pressed and unpressed, which right now it all goes to the same, so they all look exactly the same. and pressing, you can't really tell a difference. But of course, okay, an update cursor would be perfect. Okay, so yeah, I am going to create an enum, type def enum cursor types. That's going to have a pointer, cursor pointer, cursor crosshair, cursor pencil, and then I might as well look at what they're doing here. They have an arrow, that's the regular one, the one I'm calling pointer. They have an I-beam, they have a hand, and resize. Cursor hand, cursor I-beam, cursor H resize, cursor W resize. There is also a cursor diagonal resize. These don't actually exist, neither do these. And there is another kind of cursor, isn't there? No, I think that's it. If there is, I'll add it later. All right, right now I only have these three. And I want to have a current cursor type declared extern in here and then declared in here. Ah, wait. Current cursor type. Like that. And yeah, instead of switch cursor with a name, we're going to switch it to switch cursor with this thing. That way we can also avoid if current cursor type is equal to type, just return true without doing anything because, well, it's convenient. And switch cursor, by default, you're going to do cursor pointer. And also, yeah, I'm going to have to keep a list of names for them. Tentative array definition assumed to have one element. What? Oh, okay. Cursor pointer is pointer.bmp. And the same for all the other ones, which are crosshair and pencil, which really just take their name from here. No, damn it. Just the name. There we go. All right, so you're going to get your name from there. And prevent cursors that don't exist from being loaded. What am I doing? I'm working on a cursor. I'm just like being able to switch between different cursor types. Wait, okay, there's the vertical resize. There's the horizontal resize. There should be also like that one. There's vertical, horizontal, and diagonal. Then there is this one, which is the I-beam apparently. There's the pointer, and then there's crosshairs, which I don't know how to render, and then there's hand. All right, either way, should be possible to do that now. And I'm going to see if I'm able to make the GPU render the cursor manually. There is a cursor updated. What is that? Ah, I see. Okay, cursor updated just re-renders the cursor, pretty much. But essentially, we're going to also include the cursor manager in here, which is in utils cursor manager. And keep the cursor types last cursor type. And essentially, if the last cursor type... Wait, hold on. Who's setting this cursor updated, though? Because this function always sets it, but who's calling this function? No one. It's being called externally. On GPU setup cursor and on GPU update cursor. Alright, that works for me. Alright, so if the last cursor type is not equal to the current cursor type, then we have a new cursor to render. We're going to call setup cursor. And then we're going to make sure that this is set to true, because we are going to re-render the cursor entirely. And that should be it for being able to switch the kind of cursor that we have externally, but of course we don't really have that, that possibility. And also, when the cursor is pressed, that switches the current cursor that gets drawn. Okay, so that also needs to happen. Updating the cursor sprite needs to happen before we update the actual cursor that gets rendered, even though right now we don't have actual rendering. Anywho. Just realized the memory from these cursors is never being freed. Just need to remember that. Alright, so default to pointer. Everything should run fine. But it should now be able to detect when an application wants to change the current cursor. Except it does not run fine because we don't have a cursor at all. So clearly that didn't work. Right, and there needs to be an invalid. This is why I always put invalid values at the beginning of my enums. Because they default to 0, which means it was defaulting to pointer. Which means that this optimization here was already kicking in. Where you don't switch the cursor if you already have the default cursor. Alright, there we have it. Gigantic cursor right there. Alright, and now the window manager should be able to change the kind of cursor that it's using, because it has that whole do you really need this C++ shit? I don't think you do anymore. I got rid of that. C++ is actually such a horrible language. I know I wrote it myself, but I mean, I wrote the logic, not the language. Don't think I could live with myself if I had done that. Okay, mode. Here it is, mode. Where is this mode being changed? Here. Okay, so when the mode gets changed, I also want to switch the cursor. Default is do nothing. Then switch cursor to crosshair and switch cursor to pencil. Let's see if that works. It does not. The statement may fall through. Okay. Maybe by default it doesn't, but if I do this, also no, it didn't work. Not even a little bit. Alright, switch cursor. I'm never setting the new cursor type. That's also an issue. Wait, to type, not to true. Alright, hopefully that'll do. Wait. There's a chance that initially it doesn't run that function though. Alright, that worked. But it kinda only updates when I move the cursor. So right now it should be changing, but it's not. When I move the mouse, it does update. Kinda figured out what happened, but at least it works. So that's good. Those icons are gigantic too. I need to make them smaller. I mean, yeah, no, they're gigantic. This is at 1920 by 1080. So, yeah, absolutely horrifyingly big cursors going on. But at least that works. That's off to a good start. The cursor in the other GPU type is a lot more complex, I believe. The GPU technically never does redraw the cursor itself. It's just told to do it when the cursor is moved. But so that logic shouldn't even be here. That logic should be when you commit a frame, probably. When you flush. It would make more sense. We wouldn't have that issue. No, it still has it. I guess nothing is re-rendering. Right, nothing is re-rendering in this case. That is insane. Hold on. Is really nothing re-rendering? What if I'm forcing the game to re-render the system and it still doesn't do anything until I move? That's annoying. I also realized that I'm never updating this thing. So that is also a problem. I mean, At least it works, but yeah, I'll need to fix that. I just don't know if I want to waste time on that right now. I do have other things to do. First off, those sprites are gigantic. They're really bothering me. So actually, the first one I drew like a quarter of the size of the total canvas, and that was actually the right call. Now I need to do this with Steam. Again, this is so stupid. Alright, let's start with the pencil. That's the one that looks the worst because it's also the clumsiest asset I made. Let's resize you to like, how's this size? No, okay, one more. There. I want to see how this looks. So I'm going to do one and then I'm going to work on the next. Okay, that is much better. I like it a lot more. Yes. Alright, so it's 3/4 of the size that it used to be. That's fine by me. Alright, let's do the same with this one. See, this is the one that I had actually done the correct size and then decided it's actually too small. I'm wasting so much space. No, it was actually perfect. Export as pointer. Okay, then we're gonna go with the next one, which is going to be the crosshair. I don't really have any more after that. Okay, so crosshair, obviously I did it this way because I was using symmetry, but now I don't need it anymore. Yeesh, okay. Hold on. I'm gonna redo this one. It looks like shit. Just, all of it. So again, I do need symmetry, so that. What is this size? Okay, hold on. A little bit small. Maybe that. No, but I need it to be like 3. Okay. So I have a space in the middle to do like the white line of it. And I like the idea of it having like rounded borders like that. So gonna keep that. That. And then internally in much smaller. It doesn't align. Oh my god. I really need you to align. Okay, so I can make this one a square. No, come on. Existence really is pain. Alright, will that one align? Can I draw a smaller one inside of this one? Will you be okay with that? Yes. So those sizes are okay. It's just that colors are not. So that is the wrong size too. That. Then make this white smaller. Boom. Boom. I hope that's better. And then that. Okay. Please be good. I think it's okay. And it breaks. But that is kind of an easy fix. Just go in here with the black 1 pixel and just force it to have the sizes that I want it to have. God, yeah, pixel art is it's something. That is actually still not accurate. Fine, I'll do better assets eventually. Again, the idea of calling them assets when you're doing operating system development is crazy, but whatever. It adds a little bit of whimsy to the whole thing. Do the Windows cursor kind of thing and forget about it? What do you mean? I mean, sounds like something Microsoft would do, but I literally have no idea what you mean. That the cursor isn't aligned properly? Do you mean mine because it actually wasn't aligned properly, or? Just gotta get rid of that thing in the middle. Fuck off. Hold on, now I'm doing this right. I'm doing this right. I don't care about anything. I just need this to look correct. Alright, so in one way or another, we're making this damn cursor have a thing in the middle. That's the eraser tool E. I wonder how that looks. I'm gonna give that a try. Alright, hold on. Well, my cursor looks like this. No, it broke too. Oh my god. I'm genuinely spending more time in Sprite than Zed today. So ridiculous. There we go. There you go. I don't think we have that issue as long as it's 90 degrees on this one, and actually 90 degrees on this one too. We're good. Anyway, yeah, like I said, I'm not done with you until you look like I wanted you to look in the first place. So fuck right off with your resizing bullshit. Why is it so difficult to resize? Well, I understand actually why it's difficult to resize pixel art. Alright. Is that aligned? I sure hope so. You know, this cursor has another issue. It's the fact that your pointer is technically here, not here. But couldn't care less right now. I've done enough. I'm also spending this whole time on fucking Steam. But Windows cursor, this one? God, I actually had seen that before. Christ. Anyway, let's see the new cursors now. Still big, but not as big. Alright. Switch to pencil. Looks decent. Did I resize the... Yes, I did. What I didn't do is do a quick... Alright, this is now a little bit too thick. It's now too thick. It's too thick. It's too thick. Forgot to remove the corners and the... Okay, look, I'm not going to reopen Steam and fix them now, so I'm just gonna quickly go over the assets later and fix them. Might play some games as well. Who knows? I'm definitely gonna do that. And then maybe if I remember, I'm gonna open Sprite and fix the assets. Anyway, we can switch between cursors and it was relatively easy to do, but again, I now have to consider, do I want to make the cursor no, I do want to make the cursor immediately update. I'm a little bit surprised that it doesn't do that. Like when you flush, it should be picking the new cursor, but it's not. Unless I need to manually tell you that the cursor was updated and I forgot to do that part. But also, there is the tiny issue that when this is happening, right now, there is no rendering happening whatsoever. It is completely static. Which means now that I've pressed a button, there's no one telling the system to re-render. But if I press this button, now my cursor's technically gone, but I should be able to see it. Where's the cursor? Alright, there it is. And the same happens for this one. So I do wonder, again, this one does re-render. Not sure why the cursor is glitching there on me, but whatever. It does not re-render until I redraw the cursor, until I move the cursor. Why? Maybe I need to explicitly call... Yeah, I probably just explicitly need to call that function. Update cursor on the current cursor's position. So exactly where it is right now. Which is cursor X, cursor Y. And do a full redraw. Okay, now it's much better. Do I need to have a window open though? Do I need to have somebody telling the system to flush? Or is there actually rendering happening behind the scenes? No, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. Okay, that's good, that's good, that's good, that's good, that's good, that's good, that's good. And it's especially good because now I can do the same thing for the other, I can speedrun the same thing for the other GPU as well. Just tell it not to use the frame buffer GPU. I haven't used this GPU in a while, by the way. Doing fine. Looking good there, buddy. It's like a million times slower. Holy shit, this GPU is bad. But I think I'm gonna need to use it if I want to do 3D rendering. And like, accelerated rendering. Wait, okay, hold on. So now I'm using that GPU. And again, very similar logic. We're going to add a last cursor type. And we got rid of a what? Of a new cursor. Right. Do you have a new cursor function? Yes. Okay. Get rid of that. Add this. This one's a lot more complex because it does some really stupid shit, essentially. That's the... this GPU actually has a concept of a cursor. Like, it knows what a cursor is. Absolutely ridiculous. But the good thing about it is it creates the cursor in the GPU, so it kind of takes care of that. Which means that, you know, maybe I do want to keep the new cursor function. I want to keep that. But instead of doing like an allocation and whatnot, you're just going to do a call to default cursor. No, to get cursor. To get cursor. And then your backing is going to be the context frame buffer. And that should be able to render the current cursor. Maybe. It's glitching, but so was the other one, so what the fuck? It works for me. And then, not when you update cursor, no, but when you flush, we want to have the same logic that we have here. Which is to call setup cursor to update the cursor, and now it's no longer keeping track of where the cursor is. So that might be a problem. If I don't do a full redraw, it should be fine. I hope. I sure hope so. Anyway, set up cursor. There we go. And then last cursor type equal to the current cursor type. That's good. This could use some optimization, but I believe the logic is there. No, it is not. Also, why is the cursor glitching like that? Why is the cursor cursing? why is the cursor I don't know, having a seizure right now? It's so hot in here, it's hard to think. It's not even that hot. Like the heat wave that's supposed to start, I don't think has officially started yet. I might retire from living for a little bit. 35 degrees. Okay, so kind of heat wavy. Unfortunately, not the worst. Tomorrow's gonna be hotter, and actually tomorrow's the hottest day, so that's good. Anyone know of any vacation spots in like Iceland? Is Iceland nice this time of year? Because last time I tried the UK, there was a heat wave there too, so not worth it. Have you seen Principia Softwarecap? What a name. Also, hi Carlo, how you been? I see what they were going with this name, but I don't know about this. Series of books explaining how... See, look at what the heat is doing. Look at what the heat is doing to the pig behind me. Wait, that's a dog. That's a dog. Is a series of books explaining how things work in a computer and describing with full details all the source code and the essential programs used by a programmer? I'm not gonna lie to you, this sounds like hell on earth if you're describing the source code to me. But at the same time, that seems interesting, especially because it's based off of Plan 9. And we know I love Plan 9. Project presentation at IWP9 available on YouTube. Oh, this is as of May 2026. This is new. YouTube. Will YouTube be able to show us a video? Yes, apparently. It's 52 minutes, so okay, I'm not going to watch that. But very nice. Is it normal for YouTube to struggle that much in just showing a video on a video website? Open up the book on current. Is it here? The Plan 9 kernel Raspberry Pi ARM 32 bits edition, version 0.1. Interesting. Let's see. Let's jump to a random section. How about concur? No. How about something I know about, like monolithic versus microkernel? Okay. To be fair, it immediately starts with like once you have this, everything runs in user space servers that communicate with message passing. All right. So I want to see some code. Syscall interface. Plan 9 pushes this further. Everything is a file server. Devices, consoles, a screen, process table. All right. All right, there it is. C prototypes, rfork, exit, wait. Nice, actually. I might take a better look at this later. That's interesting. All right, I did delay an ad the past like minute, which I should have run now, but whatever. I'm just gonna see if I can finish working with this damn thing. Again, this GPU is the only reason I'm keeping it around is because I again think it's the only one that is actually capable of doing 3D acceleration by passing bytecode over to your GPU. Now, how that bytecode is supposed to look, I have zero clue. I'm terrified to find out. However, I do think it's capable of doing that. It is also not documented, but I guess I'll need to learn eventually. All right. So working life lately, but still going on vacation. Nice. Very nice. All right. Where even is the code that I wrote? It's down here on line 300. Vertio 3D acceleration. It honestly just seems like the documentation is the Linux kernel. I just want to remind us of this part. Wait, it's not in my history anymore. The Vertio spec. All right. This is the spec for all of these devices that QEMU uses. That pretty much any operating system out there will probably want to support in case you get run in a virtual machine. And they have a list of devices. Which I don't know where it is. Alright, let me see. I remember there being... Okay, so 9P, for example? Okay. There's a list of devices which... this one seems very small. But the thing is, okay, we have these devices. However, is it here that it says that? No. Okay. This is the list of devices. This is the full list of devices. Some of the devices above are unspecified by this document because they are seen as immature or especially niche. Be warned that some are only specified by the sole existing implementation. Essentially, this is a spec for virtual devices that don't actually exist in anything except for this spec defining them and then anyone implementing them. And you're telling me that some of these are actually too niche, so you haven't bothered specifying them in the spec. The only place where they exist. How does that work? It does say that they are only specified by the sole existing implementation, like the 9P device that I just looked up. But then why are you bothering putting them in a spec? Why are they called Vertio devices? What makes them Vertio devices if they don't exist in the spec and there's only one implementation of them? Or none. There might be none. These people are genuinely like, hold on. I just thought of a new device. You are not allowed to know what it looks like. And it literally only exists inside of my brain. But here it is in the list. I just thought of another one. That's 2 devices. 2 devices I've just created. Alright, actually, you know what? I'm going to be thinking of devices for the next 3 minutes and running an ad. I'll be right back, and I'm gonna try to fix this thing. Alright, I'm back. Hello, front end. Yeah, always working on the system. It's been a while. It's going well, actually. At least I like it more than Linux. Not hard to do. Okay. Right, I was adding cursors. Multiple cursors. Which, by the way, that's incredible pixel art. Isn't that incredible? Why is it I'm not gonna say what I was gonna say, actually. But yeah, these assets need a little bit of work. But this other GPU is not picking them up. I would love to know why. So, update cursor. Merci. Arun. Update cursor. Update cursor. Update cursor. It should be updating. Okay. So that is good. Then when I update the cursor here, what I do is I just call setup cursor and then update cursor. Setup cursor just gets the cursor, which is actually the same one for both. And then does these two things. Which cursor updated doesn't really exist here. But hold on. Yeah, I need to do new cursor. I'm creating a new cursor, right? Which again, not really necessary to create multiple new cursors. The cool thing about this GPU, cool being a strong word here, is that it's capable of like having images on the GPU referenced by an ID and whatnot and all that stuff. Yeah, it's creating new cursors every time and updating their numbers. But then the cursor does not get updated. I probably need to do another call to tell the GPU your cursor comes from this. Now, resource ID, I'm setting it here. So when I call update cursor, I see the problem. I see the problem. Okay. Yeah, the problem comes when I call update cursor. I'm not doing a full redraw, which means I'm just telling the cursor to move, but I'm not telling it to update. The problem is if I tell it to update, it doesn't really know where the old cursor is supposed to be, so it thinks I'm moving it to 0, 0, most likely. Well, that's hardly gonna be a problem, I mean. I'll just have to store the position of the cursor manually. Oh. Well, surprisingly no, but why are there two cursors now? Why are there two cursors and why is it flickering so much? This GPU needs a little quick glance at everything and making sure everything making everything work and whatnot, but okay, I'm just gonna add a to-do to refactor this whole thing. Refactor before 3D Excel aeration. I do not use AI, no. Good enough for me, honestly. Like, I don't care about the GPU at all. If I need to use the Linux kernel as reference to do 3D acceleration, that's gonna be a no from me, dog. Thank you, though. Look at this. Look at this. This works. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's totally fine. However, I did remove the new cursor function here, and I kind of want to undo that. Because I want to do this, but I want to copy the cursor. So I want to make a new cursor. Like, yeah, I get it from the manager, but then I copy it over so that I own that memory. Does that make sense? That's not really necessary to do that. It's really not necessary for me to do that. Why would I bother doing that? Never mind. But yeah, I'm still gonna call new cursor. That's gonna be at least a little bit convenient. Although the fact that I don't own the cursor is a little bit weird. Like, I don't own that memory, but it's fine. If I don't own that memory, I just tell the... If I don't own that memory, that's actually for the best. Hold on, I'm rethinking everything. When I draw a new cursor, what I'm doing right now is literally re-rendering the entire thing for no particular reason. Which means reallocating memory, filling that memory with the pixels, and returning that. When I could, at the very, very least, always use the same memory. Because the cursor always uses the same memory. But the more I think about it, I'm feeling lazy as fuck today. It's not even the heat, I'm just feeling lazy as fuck today, so I don't want to do that. I can just do that tomorrow, honestly. Alright, just keep adding to-dos to the damn thing. It would be worth it to also like review the code that I'm writing a little bit and review these GPUs a little bit. But yeah, the GPU should not own the memory to those cursors, so it's fine. The GPU should not be doing all the rendering and all that stuff. It should just, well, the actual like setting up the cursor. It should just be like, hey, I want a cursor. Get it. That's it. Has a pressed and unpressed. That's it. Which the current cursor manager does not have. And it also does not have tints, which is press and unpress. That's literally it. It does not have tint. So I'll want to add that later. And it does not have resizing, which I will need to add for a specific reason, a feature that I don't quite remember what it is, but at some point I will need to resize the cursor for some reason. I can't remember why, but I will need to, so. Can't really share a roadmap. Also, the roadmap that I had for the future got deleted, because I kind of forgot to back it up. But you can find the Git project on GitHub. Alright. You know what? I would say I want to end the stream and maybe like go to a park or something. But we have this beautiful thing here in Madrid, where the mayor is kind of known for hating trees. The guy just fucking hates the trees. For some fucking reason. He loves to chop them down. He has actually officially opened several parks that are just devoid of any vegetation whatsoever. But most importantly, we have this beautiful thing where there's weather warnings. And during a severe weather warning, they will close the parks. Because, for example, if there's like a thunderstorm or strong winds, a tree could fall over and kill someone, which has actually happened. So, hey, we want to avoid that, we close the parks. In a severe weather warning, which also includes hot weather. So when it gets too hot, we close the parks, which are, by the way, the only places where there's any shade left because this motherfucker has chopped down all the trees. So it's a desert outdoors, and I don't have AC, so it's an oven indoors, but I cannot think. I also don't feel like working with the cursor again. Again, to be honest, I did this today because I didn't know what else to work on. So, a bit of a more directionless stream that I'm used to doing, but oh well. All right, so I'm gonna continue this tomorrow. For now, this it does work. It is just that every time you switch the cursor, it doesn't clean the memory from the old one. But I can do that, right? That's the thing. Why am I not doing that? Actually, if this owns the memory, it's literally that easy. Switch cursor. If you already have the cursor type, okay, that's good. And then if current cursor dot frame buffer, then just release that. That's it. See how hard it is to think when it's 35 degrees and like 50 inside your house. That line of code that I just wrote is something that I thought was gonna be like a monumental task. So anyway, this GPU no longer needs to free memory because that memory just doesn't belong to it. It doesn't need this function at all. I was actually doing it correctly the first time, so I'm not sure why I did it wrong there. Whatever. New cursor can go away again. And the other GPU does need to clean memory. This one does need to clear the old cursor because that is actually like a resource that is attached to the GPU. Again, this is like shared in GPU memory directly. So because of that, it does need to do this. Although I could just optimize this GPU a little bit more and just, you know, upload all the cursors to it and just switch in a simpler way. But again, I'll have to optimize this GPU eventually, and once I do 3D acceleration, this will become the primary CPU that I use, GPU that I use. So we'll get to that point eventually. For now, it's fine. So I think that means I'm done with the cursor. I just need to add tint to it, and I need to fix the assets a little bit. But yeah. Oh, and the other thing is that when the system starts up, it doesn't have this one. But that's on me to fix. It should be a very simple fix. So just put this when the program starts. All right, almost done. Yep, that's the default cursor now. Should make it a lot clearer. Yeah, that you can draw into the system. I think that's gonna be a more universal symbol for drawing. See? That. 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 All of those are using it. Pronouns, really? I'm okay with anything. But he usually. And they is okay too. And I live in Spain, unfortunately, in the summer. Fortunately, in the winter. Unfortunately, I live in Madrid, which has genuinely been made borderline unlivable for anyone that isn't a tourist in the past few years. So that's very nice. Closing parks because of a weather warning, not being able to tell the difference between strong winds and heat is hilarious, actually. Or your kids want to play outside? Oh, no, it's too hot for that. Oh, you wanna chill under the shade of the tree? Because it's 36 degrees right now? What if the tree falls over because of strong winds that are not happening right now? Can't have your blood on my hands. We're just gonna close the park. It's a very nice city to live in. Yeah. Anyway, I actually used to like living here. All right. Even though I can't go, essentially, I cannot go anywhere that has AC that doesn't require me to pay money. Look how that one worked out. Unless I find a friend, but yeah, that's a different story. Um, Look how that worked out. I can't go anywhere to escape the heat without paying. Hmm. Even though that's the case, I am still going to stop coding because I am genuinely losing it. I have no idea what I'm doing anymore. Writing one line of code really just like completely deleted my brain. And also, I wasn't exactly planning on working on this thing, but it is working now, so turns out I actually don't need to do any more refactoring or anything like that, so we're mostly good. Most of our parks tend to have like fences around them of some sort, so they can close. Like most, if not all. I have a job. Um, to make money, that is. Which is good because for the last week, YouTube decided that it was going to turn off my monetization by default and I had to turn it on manually. This year, today, I mean, it actually worked out fine. All of a sudden, I'm allowed to just monetize my videos by default again. YouTube is so fucking stupid, I don't know what to tell you. It's a genuinely non-functional platform anymore. It just doesn't work anymore. There's no excuse, there's no way around it. Don't know what to tell you. Okay. So that's the cursor. I was gonna start out doing like path drawing. That was a thing that I started out doing today, but this is how far we got with that, by the way, in case you weren't here during that part of the stream. This is the cursor. Yeah, I kind of decided to focus on the like integration into the OS besides instead of doing the path rendering cursor thingy. So we're okay. It's fine. I'll figure this part out. I do need to start working on my 3D renderer again because I'm finishing work on a mini game right now, which I needed to figure out some mechanics for a bigger game. But after I'm done working on that mini game, I will need to also start working on like engine upgrades for the actual game that I'm trying to build. So that's gonna require this. So I'm probably gonna get back to this at some point. Not sure if I'm gonna stream it or not. But CPU 3D rendering is kind of interesting. Might stream it a little bit, I guess. We'll see. I'm not sure yet. But where is my document with the I clicked on file, open file. I clicked on a file and I clicked on open. Where the fuck is my file? I think it opened in a different tab. What kind of stupid behavior is this? You have your file, you have this window open and you're trying to open a file. We're gonna open it in a different window for you. What's the logic behind it? I need to see the code behind it, except it's probably AI slop as well, so I don't want to look at the code. Yeah, so I have multiple cursors now. What I don't have is, first off, a syscall for that. So your application cannot control the kind of cursor that it uses. And also, I don't have the path rendering, which I kind of want to separate. And I did say I wanted to do some doc or status bar, but I really want to avoid it as much as possible. But let's face it, I'm so tired of Linux. I'm, like I said, by the end of this year planning on doing most development on this system, so I'll see when I need a doc. Alright, so I'm not sure what I'm going to work on tomorrow, but I guess I'll figure it out tomorrow. I've never contributed to Linux, because I don't like Linux at all. So I use it because I have no other choice, because I hate Windows more. Also because technically I would need a license, because my motherboard died, and I bought a new one, and that apparently invalidated my license. Like, it was associated to my motherboard, so now I needed a new license. And I just sat there with the activate Windows thing for so long that it just, like, blended into the environment and I completely ignored it. But, Microsoft thinks that their operating system is worth money. That alone makes it the most hateable. Hey Rudy, how you doing? I'm doing good. The fact that they think this operating system is worth any money, makes it the worst one by far. But Linux, I don't want to say that they don't deserve money, because these are contributors who are working on this thing. So in that sense, yes, it would probably be better if these people were earning money from contributing. There would be more of an incentive, maybe. I don't know, maybe not. Kind of talking out of my ass on that one. But it's messy as fuck. It's janky as fuck. Ugh. What exactly do you dislike in Linux? Okay, so I switched to Debian, right? And I have 3 desktop environments with 2 different display managers. And 6 total setups. And I couldn't find a way to get any of these setups to work by just messing with their settings until everything works. Impossible. X11 cannot handle 2 displays with 2 different DPIs. So already anything with X11 does not work. It worked on Ubuntu because Ubuntu has a patch for that, because they thought of this very obvious thing. Nobody else did. So only Ubuntu can handle this properly, apparently. Wayland. Nobody supports Wayland. By the way, that actually includes me. Full disclosure. I'm enforcing X11 emulation mode if you're on Wayland, because it crashes otherwise. I don't know why it crashes, but it crashes otherwise, and I couldn't be bothered fixing it. OBS barely supports Wayland. A bunch of other applications break when you're on Wayland. Everything breaks on Wayland. And at every single step of the way, when you're trying to debug these things, besides going into the terminal every 5 seconds, you're going to be constantly barraged by people just going, the problem is that you are on X11. Have you tried doing this on Wayland? You should be switching to Wayland. X11 is deprecated. Have you tried doing this on X11? Wayland is buggy and unfinished. The problem is that you're on GNOME. That is a bad desktop environment. Switch to KDE. The problem is that you're on KDE. That is a bad desktop environment. GNOME has been around for a lot longer and it's more mature. The problem is that you're on Debian. They auto-configure stuff and it might not work for you. The problem is that you're on Arch. It's very easy to break stuff because you have to configure everything yourself. The problem is the community. Respectfully shut the fuck up. Essentially. Wayland has been in development for so long it has IPv6. It's like IPv6 at this point, yes. What a ridiculous fucking environment. The problem is you did it wrong. By the way, I must have done something wrong because Ubuntu showed me a pop-up that was like, we're going to update your system. Do you want to do it now or do you want to do it later? And I was like, okay, do it now. And when I restarted my computer, networking was gone. They deleted the network manager. The only way to install it is through the network. This is the reason I switched to Debian, by the way. So jank OS over here, I'm not enjoying it. I don't like it. I don't like to spend most of my time in my terminal. I enjoy when I turn on my computer and it just fucking works. And I spent a genuine 24 hours. Whenever any free time I had, I was trying to get my system to work before I had to stream yesterday. And I just want Linux users to go to a store, open a Mac, and try to do something. Windows will not work. It's a piece of shit system as well. But even then, you're going to have an easier time. Turn on a Windows computer and try to do something. You will probably be able to do it well. Try the same thing on Mac. You will probably be able to do it. Try the same thing on Linux. Well, first you need to know which desktop environment you're using and which display manager you're using. If you're using this one, that's deprecated. If you're using this one, it's too new. Those are the only two alternatives, by the way, so go fuck yourself, essentially. And by the way, did you install this package? Go into the terminal real quick and run this command with sudo, by the way. You need to run it with sudo, okay? Don't worry about what it tells you about the root password or anything like that. Don't worry about it. Just copy and paste this command into the terminal for me. There's actual operating systems that work. I don't think Mac is full of telemetry. The only place where it has like obligatory telemetry is betas. That's literally the only place. Anywhere else, you can just turn it off. It's mostly fine. For that matter, it's actually pretty privacy focused, as much as a Silicon Valley company can be. Think they handle that pretty well. For that matter, has the same amount of like pop-ups for telemetry as Linux does, because most distros nowadays are like, do you want to enter the package competition program where most used packages get put in a ranking so that we know which ones to include into the operating system? That feels just the same when it comes to like telemetry, like being asked shit. Apple is like, can we get usage data from you? Yes or no? The only place where you cannot do it is betas, because there they actually do need that data to develop the system. Yeah, the price of Macs is obviously the big limiting factor for it, but it is pretty good. You have a service for watching the user's images for sus stuff? That is a kind of... That is off by default, isn't it? I don't know. But to be fair, that's running on your device. That's like something completely local. Thing is that as much as people love to pretend that, you know, anything can be backdoor and whatnot, it can, sure. But, for example, for that thing, if Apple claims to to run it in your local device, and then people notice that actually it's not just running on your local device, that is kind of noticeable. They can't really hide it. If instead they're like, we're gonna send all your images to our servers for safety purposes, that kind of changes the entire story. For that matter, I am kind of surprised that they added that. I don't know. I heard about it recently from people on Twitter complaining about it, but I did not know that that was even a feature. Like, I heard that they were going to implement it for, you know, against illegal images, but then people didn't want it because it, even though it has a, like, way of working that respects privacy, it feels iffy, so they never added it. That's where I left that story. I didn't even know they added it until, like, this week, pretty much. I found out that existed. Alright, yeah, don't have AC, can't go to a park. I'm gonna see if I find a way to get access to an AC for today. If not, tomorrow I may just be a little bit more melted than usual, but I think it's gonna be fine. Alright, thank you so much everybody, and if you're also in a heat wave, try not to die, I guess. I'll see you tomorrow.